what you have here is a situation where the countries will maintain their own monetary autonomy. They will have to take good care of their economic house to keep it in good standing, to trade with one another, to have it part of the unit ecosystem. But in the end, it will be the pegging of gold, that 40% pegging, which indeed which will give validity to the entire system that isn't really dependent upon any one central authority. And it's a very big deal as far as I'm concerned. You put it together with its reclassification as tier one, its massive acquisition by the central banks, and its repatriation by all of these players.
The BRICS nations are actively exploring the introduction of a new global currency system, tentatively called the unit. According to a recent white paper, this innovative currency would be pegged 40% to gold and 60% to a basket of BRICS national currencies. The primary objective is to establish an apolitical currency that addresses the growing concerns of countries wary of the politicization of the US dollar in international trade. Andy Schectman, president and owner of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, notes that in recent years, BRICS member countries and central banks worldwide have significantly increased their gold reserves and repatriated gold to secure it within their own borders. This trend reflects a strategic shift toward enhancing financial sovereignty and reducing reliance on traditional reserve currencies. Since 2022, BRICS nations have also utilized the Bank of International Settlements (BIS) Bridge project, a multi-central bank digital currency platform developed in partnership with China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the UAE. This platform provides a viable alternative to the SWIFT network, excluding several countries, including Russia and Iran, due to sanctions. By leveraging mBridge, BRICS nations aim to facilitate cross-border transactions more efficiently and securely, fostering greater economic cooperation among member states. Recent transactions have highlighted a significant trend toward using local currencies for essential commodities, such as gold and oil. For instance, China has increasingly engaged in transactions using its digital yuan to purchase oil and gold. This development signals a broader movement among nations to conduct trade in their own currencies, as evidenced by Russia and India, which progressively execute transactions in their respective national currencies. Andy emphasizes that such practices promote bilateral trade and significantly reduce exposure to currency risks associated with the US dollar. Countries can enhance their economic stability and independence by conducting trade in local currencies, paving the way for a more resilient global financial landscape. Now, we present the clips of Andy Schectman's insights from his recent interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates.
The finance minister of the Eurasian Economic Union and a Russian finance minister who basically said this is the path that the BRICS are heading down. It will be a basket, he said back then, of BRICS plus currencies, he's right on that, and a basket of commodities. Not so right on that, but kind of. So keep in mind what I said about the BIS and the repatriation of gold and all of this stuff as we continue down this pathway. But there was a meeting, that meeting in Novigrad that coincided with the G7 meeting. And what came out of it, there were three things that caught my attention. One, we are told that 59 countries have expressed interest. 59. Two, Dilma Rousseff. Now, Dilma was the former president of Brazil, and Dilma is now the head of the BRICS New Development Bank. And she said, look, we had two meetings on the sidelines with Putin and Glaziev, and in principle, we have agreed to the unit settlement token, which is to be traded over Project mBridge. You take the gross domestic product of the world, all of it, 99% of it, and the countries that comprise 99% of it, all have CBDCs in development or operation. So it will allow all of these BRICS members to trade amongst themselves in their own central bank digital currencies. That's first and foremost, right? That's how they will transact. But if at a certain point that becomes a problem, maybe there's too much of an imbalance. Maybe I don't want your currency. Maybe I want something else. And that something else is the unit settlement token, which is 60% BRICS plus currencies and 40% gold. And that is a really, really big deal because if we go back to all of the countries that have repatriated their gold, what we see is that the gold that will be used to mint these tokens, these settlement tokens, and the currency will be able to be held within the jurisdiction of the countries that possess the gold. So all of this repatriation of gold, many think is about the weaponization of the dollar. Well, what did the BIS do last time? They told all these countries to load up on gold and to repatriate it, and then bang, it's tier one. Well, is there any coincidence, do you think, to the 40 plus countries that have brought all of their gold home? And now we are being told that the new unit settlement token will be gold held within the borders of the countries that possess it. I don't. In fact, I think it will be huge. And in fact, all of the items in the unit reserve basket, the 60% currency, the 40% gold, must be freely tradable in gold terms for spot delivery at one of the unit nodes. And so what you have here is a situation where the countries will maintain their own monetary autonomy. They will have to take good care of their economic house, to keep it in good standing, to trade with one another, to have it part of the unit ecosystem. But in the end, it will be the pegging of gold, that 40% pegging, which indeed will give validity to the entire system that isn't really dependent upon any one central authority. And it's a very big deal as far as I'm concerned. You put it together with its reclassification as tier one, its massive acquisition by the central banks, and its repatriation by all of these players. And then you see Saudi Arabia as the fifth full participant in Enbridge, realizing it's not compatible with US dollars. Again, do you have to be particularly astute to wonder what does that have in store for dollar accumulation, which is being eviscerated to the tune of $100,000 in debt per second, or $1 trillion in debt every 90 days. And I always say to you, what's 1 trillion seconds but 31,688 years ago? We're destroying the dollar. So this is a way for countries to push back against the West, the mismanagement of the dollar, the weaponization of the treasury, to accumulate gold instead, which has doubled the performance of the 10-year treasury for 25 years with no counterparty liability, and not worry about all of these factors that seem to be accelerating quickly with the mismanagement of the dollar and the treasury market.
The desire to replace the US dollar as the global reserve currency is gaining traction, particularly among BRICS nations, but significant challenges remain. While Russia has been a strong advocate for establishing alternatives to the dollar-dominated financial system, the enthusiasm of other BRICS members for a rapid shift appears limited. The recent fall summit in Kazan, Russia, did not outright reject the notion of de-dollarization. However, as highlighted by the South China Morning Post, few countries in the grouping seem ready to ditch the US dollar despite Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent efforts to encourage an alternative system of payment among members. Efforts to establish a payment system to replace the dollar-dominated SWIFT network have stalled. After the recent summit, President Putin admitted there is no immediate plan for such a system, stating the bloc have not and are not pursuing it. Despite this, Andy Schectman notes that the weaponization of the dollar through excessive sanctions is driving countries to explore alternatives. The BRICS group, now representing over 36% of global GDP, aims to facilitate local currency use in trade and strengthen alliances, especially through initiatives like China's Belt and Road Initiative, which focuses on developing nations.
We take a step back, we can look at the Belt Road Initiative, China's effort to industrialize all of these under-industrialized countries, which represent 75% of human population, as is 50% of global GDP. And I think it's fair to mention that every one of the OPEC countries are on the Belt Road. And this is kind of what got me walking down this path. And if we look at a country then who has chosen to weaponize the treasury market the way that we have, it's important to look at it from the other side, right? And, you would never want to go to court with an attorney for when you're being accused of murder who only listens to what you have to say and doesn't acknowledge the plaintiff's case. That doesn't matter. We don't need to know. That's not the smart way of doing things. So look at it from the other side. We're a country who invaded Iraq under false pretenses 20 years ago, looking for weapons of mass destruction that were never found. We're sorry. We're sorry we destroyed your country. We've toppled your regime. And here we are 20 years later still occupying the country. And they made $90 billion last year in oil revenue, which is held at the New York Fed. And they asked at the end of 23 for $1 billion. Please give it to us. We need it for something. No, we said, it's yours, but come back next year. It's just not a good time. This hypocrisy is being viewed by many countries like Iraq to the extent that they have formally applied to BRICS. They are kicking Western coalition forces out of the country as we speak. They have made trading in dollars illegal. If you own a business, they will throw you in jail and confiscate your business. And as of January earlier this year, there are no green bills in any bank throughout all of the country. There was a meeting that was held in Novigrad that coincided with the G7 meeting. And interestingly enough, the Saudis were invited to the G7 meeting. They turned it down and instead sent their delegates to the BRICS meeting in Novigrad. And you get different numbers from different news sources, but from this article, it said as many as 59 countries have thrown their hat into the ring. Other news sources will tell you that they are pausing on reintegrating more and more countries into the BRICS to get all of their these forces that are pulling in different directions to get everything aligned and tight. I think what we will see, whether or not we see more countries that have been formally admitted, which I suspect there will be some, we will get an acknowledgement of just how many countries indeed are planning on joining. And maybe it isn't announced in next week, or maybe it's announced throughout the year, or maybe even next year in Brazil. But what I think is undeniable is that there is a massive growing chorus of countries that are finding interest in exactly what the BRICS are standing for. And that is a multipolar world instead of a unipolar world, one that is all about having the chance to stand up for themselves instead of being subservient to the West. And I guess if I had to answer candidly, I would say yes, I think there is a probability that we will see some admission by a few countries, maybe not the big group that they've talked about, 30, 40, 50 that have expressed interest, but I think we'll see some that are admitted, and that being a primary focus moving forward. In fact, if you look at what Brazil is talking about for when they take over the chair on January 1, it is integrating other countries into the system. So it's coming, whether it's announced next week or not. I don't know how important that is. Just know that more and more countries are wanting to do just this, and that is throw their hat into the ring.
If BRICS establishes a peer-to-peer digital currency platform for cross-border payments, we could see a significant drop in demand for US dollars, while interest in gold may surge. In recent months, BRICS central banks have been increasingly purchasing gold and selling US Treasury bonds, contributing to a steady rise in gold prices, reaching new highs each month since March 2024. The potential global repercussions of this shift are substantial, though difficult to predict fully at this stage. The US dollar's dominance is being challenged like never before, raising questions about its future as the primary reserve currency. Although BRICS is not yet positioned to replace the dollar entirely, the outlook for the greenback as the leading currency in international trade is becoming increasingly precarious. Please share your thoughts on Andy's analysis in the comments below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.